Yes, if you go to BrickLayouts.com, there'll be a button that says Open BrickLayouts. The website for actually the application itself is app.bricklayouts.com. All right, so this is the average American coffee table. I looked it up on the internet. So let's say that you have your coffee table, and that's all the space you have in your home where you are going to try and set up a display. So you are not going. You're going to find that you cannot display a lot. So here in BrickLayouts, in the bottom left, we have different categories of things that you can add. So I'm going to go to structures. I'm going to find. Oh, we'll go with the detective's office, right? Just as an example of a building you might put on display. And you'll find that when you put it in here, it'll fit right there in the corner. And then let's say you want to put the fire brigade facing the other way. So I'm going to press R to rotate it. And maybe you're trying to make a little street. Well, that's going to hang off the table. That's not going to work. So your table, your space in your house for this little display is definitely not going to work for this. And so the advantage of using a digital tool instead of just starting to try and do this is you can plan out what you're going to need ahead of time. Not just what you want to pull out of your storage or what you want to build that you've already bought, but if you don't have the things you need to fit in the space you have. Because sometimes we don't all have the choice to go, oh man, I don't have enough space, let me get more space. We don't all have homes that have more space in them, or the ability to just put more tables together, or a room to put all of our Lego in. Now, some of us might have Lego rooms, but not everyone can. So by using a tool like this, a digital planning tool, we can figure out what's going to fit in this space. So one of the things, and I don't know how great you can see it from the back and the light of the projector, but there are grid lines on here that let you see roughly how big things are. By default, when you load BrickLayouts, those grid lines are each square, not the white bordered square, but the lighter gray ones are 1 32 by 32 base plate. And the white ones are like 3 base plates by 3 base. You can configure that. But so you can actually see this table, the average American coffee table, is about 1, not quite 2, a little bit more than 1.5 base plates up and down, and it's 3.5 wide, something like that. So you're certainly not going to fit 2 full modular buildings or box that you might have display that are size. Well, actually not but. So, like if you wanted to make a little bit of a city display, you're putting your building here, you're also going to find that you're not going to be able to fit a road there, right in front of it. That's not going to fit. But what will fit, and what's helpful to be able to explore through all the parts in a tool like this, things you might not already have or might not realize will fit, is there's also the road plates that Lego came out with, which are smaller than a full road base plate. Zoom in here. You can see just zooming as a scrolling your wheel. And you can see those fit just fine. So there's still a bit more space. I can fit in other things, but I can fit a building plus a road. So go ahead. I think for some reason working with this projector is a little bit laggy. There we go. Or not. That went nice and fast. So we can put in a road plate, and we can duplicate it across. And Control D on my keyboard, as you can see. That's just letting me see how many of them are going to fit. And I can make a little display with different buildings. In fact, let me just keep going with these. Right, grab another building. There we go. So we fit 7 of them there. Great. And we have space for. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Can you change the view?
Yeah, so what you can do is we can look at an inventory of what is in this. So if you went up to this menu, there's a part inventory. And you can see, sorry, I have a hidden clubhouse that's on the screen right now. There are 7 road base plates right here. So you can see how many parts or things that you need.
But I'm saying, can you can you show like the whole thing? Like for example, like the measurements, would you be able to show that on the screen? Would you be able to see that on the screen? The whole screen, like let's say like a top view type of thing, so that you can see what's on there and what fits on there. Right, the size of the table.
Right, okay, so in this case, yes, so you can see the size of the table. I went ahead and put this table in here to make us go faster, but just to answer your question, the table that I put in here, which you could have put in whatever you wanted, when I click on the table, I actually have an edit button, and it'll show you this table is 36 inches by 18. And you can put in any table size you want. Like I said, I looked up. That's right, sorry. This is a custom shape that I put in for a table. The tables category within BrickLayouts has a bunch of, we preset a bunch of ones from like IKEA and ones that a lot of lugs use as their standard tables, so that you can just pick those. You don't have to put in the measurements of those each. But if you're doing something at your home, that might be your dining room table, something like that. I'm probably not going to have that exact size. So you use a custom shape, you put in the exact measurements. Units come in studs, inches, feet, centimeters, millimeters. That hopefully covers everybody. They're not doing something weird in like yards. I don't know. Furlongs. I don't know.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I'll just make that was a joke, but you know, just to make a call, if there is something that you see and you think, hey, I could use this extra measurement, or I could use this extra shape. We really do want your feedback. We are trying to build a tool that not just meets like what Jessica and I were needing when we built this, but we're listening to the community. We want to know what you all need. And so we definitely want that feedback. Now, I mean, I'm not saying raise your hand right now and tell me your feedback, but we'll have a thing at the end about how you can send us feedback. And we definitely want to hear that. We want to know how we can make this the best tool for the community to use when planning. And we'll get that email address later. So I could keep going here. I have a bunch of, the Lego modular buildings in here. There's also trees and things if you wanted to decorate with those. But basically, not that I think everyone owns a cafe corner, but you, that's cool.
You're rich.
Or you've been around a long time. You know. So you can figure out what fits in here, which I think is really great for your planning ahead of time. To go, okay, I can fit 3 regular base plate size buildings, and then I've got some extra space on the side if I want to do something else with that space. Though I do have things in here like the beach house, which will when round, not the right way path on that building, but you cannot right now, but that is definitely a thing that I was planning. The initial starting point here, though, is for so one of the design principles behind BrickLayouts is that it should be very easy to start to get to use, start using for people who are not advanced at doing things with Lego. And so to start off with, for specifically that building, the reason I decided to do that for its initial implementation, we only had this a couple weeks ago, that building, is that people buy the set. It comes with all. And so it'd be like, okay, well, you own it. You're probably just going to put the whole thing in there. But definitely there'll be a way to then like click on it and say, actually, I want to split it. And instead of adding the 2 halves, and then you have to drag in each half one at a time. That was the idea. So the idea is to be simple to get started, but then if you want to do advanced things, you can turn on those advanced features. Again, I will talk a lot about some of the advanced features tomorrow. There's a lot of neat things that you can do that we're not going to cover today. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. BrickLayouts is completely top-down view. We can, again, in more advanced sessions, or maybe even the one later today, I can talk about how using layers to sort of simulate or track height works, but there is no way to change your camera angle. You cannot change your angle, like to look at a different angle down at it. What you can do is you can turn off layers to look lower into something. Now, we don't do that for the modular buildings. You can't like take off their roof. That's generally not useful when someone's just trying to plan out the space they're trying to fill. But you can do things like, so right now, I'm looking at all these buildings and this stuff, and if I'm like, hey, I want to see under them, which in this case is just the coffee table, I can just turn that off. And so I can go down a layer. And so that's definitely a technique of planning that you might want to plan, that you would plan for as you're building it. Like, this is above this. So I should add a layer to track that this is above so that I can look down into it. And therefore, if you're getting really advanced, you're building a layout with a subway under it, you want that as a separate layer so you can see that separately. And also, so once you assemble it, you can bring it up and look at it and only go, okay, well, I'm just building a subway right now. Yeah, I planned all that out above it, but let's see what that looks like. So I hope that answers your question. That's what you can do. You can't change an angle. Okay, great. So I'm going to move on to the second situation, but I did want to show, and this is just because I don't want to spend time decorating this down to the nth degree that I would if I was doing this on my own. But I would start, there's a little bit of extra space at the bottom there. I might try to figure out what I want. Maybe I'd move the road to edge and put more stuff behind it, like taller things behind the buildings to make it look nicer. But I can plan that because I can see my space ahead of time. Figure out, well, okay, I have how much space do I have left here? And maybe then you want to go over into Studio and design a mop that fits that exact space. And that's definitely then something you can do. And we'll talk about in more advanced how you can then bring that in here, or at least bring in something that fits that space and simulates that you have it in here. Actually, in advance, we'll even talk about how to actually bring it. So the other one that I'm going to show is, I'm going to talk about starting out with a small train layout and expanding it out, just fit a slightly bigger space, but again, trying to keep conscious of fitting space that you already own, or your home or apartment, whatever you're in. Really quickly, I am about to show opening that, which is, Jessica was mentioning a couple people at the beginning before we started. For free, you may store one layout in the cloud for free if you decide to make an account. If you decide not to make an account, you can store as many as you want on your own computer. But I'm about to open a layout, and you're going to see that I have a lot of cloud layouts, and that is what you get if you do pay. I wanted to call that out, that not misleading. So if I'm opening from my cloud, I'm just going to open up this one. Okay, great. So back to all the things that you can totally do right. Just that one thing I wanted to call out. This is the amount of track that comes with pretty much most of the new train sets that you get from Lego that come with track. They come with 6 pieces of straight track and enough to make this oval. If you have, and what I'm going to do here is okay, let's assume that you have at least, if you want to get started with Lego trains, you can't do it on the most small scale. It's sort of impossible from the scale of the track. But you don't need that much space. So if you have this, I'm going with this table that is 30 inches by 60 inches. I clicked on the little eye on the layer. And I just picked out the table. There are other tables in here, demonstration. And you can make this track longer. You could definitely go out and get some more straight track, and we can make this bigger. And so I'm going to show that real quick, and then we're going to more from there. So in here, we've already have the track that comes with your set, but we want more space. So I just highlighted a box of the track on the curve. We want to move that down. I want to take up this whole table. I've got this space. I've already got this table in my house. We might as well use it up. And we're going to say I'm a train fanatic, and I'm not trying to put a building. I just want track everywhere, which is definitely a thing that some people want. So for the moment, I'm just going to throw it down here just to give space. And I'm going to click on the open piece of track. It's got a little yellow dot to show you that there's an open connection. And I could, as I showed doing some other things, I could just duplicate it and it'll just keep going. In fact, I'll just show you. If I Control D, it'll just keep going. But I can also go to the list of all the track, and here I can click on anything. I am just going to add straights, but I'm just showing you, you can click on the straight as well. Cool. Great, so I had 3 more there. I'm going to add here. Right, and then we're going to connect this back up. So I highlighted around it so that I could get all of it. The other way you could do this, you could click on just one of them, and on the menu, there's a bunch of options. There is a select. Great, so once you have that, sorry if it's going to chug a little bit. My computer is, again, kind of intermittently lagging on this projector. There we go, right there. Now it's all connected up. We have filled up that table. You cannot fit any more trains, which might be fine. You know, maybe you're fine with this, or your kid's fine with this, and they're like, great, I'm super happy. I'm running around on my trains. I got a little bit bigger of a layout. That's awesome. And then if they really like it and they're like, I want more. Well, again, you're not going to move your house. So there's not much more you can do with this space, right? But what we could do, some really basic things, we could add in like a switch. Lego sells sets of switches. So we could add that in here. So I'm going to go in here and just click the piece I want to delete. And I'm going to add a switch, which is not the right way around. I don't want it to go off the table. There we go. So I could add a little switch here. I'm going to curve, and I'm going to add a couple. Now we've got, maybe you park a second train there, little station. And I could put one on the other side, and that's all it's going to fit here. So we're going to go with one more step further. And again, I'm not gonna try and assume you have a massive room, but we're gonna go, hey, if you can make space for 5 foot by 5 foot, I can show you can do quite a lot of things by just doubling this. And I will have dead end track pretty soon. I actually have the image for it. It hasn't been added. The rerailer piece I actually don't have yet. It's the exact same size as a straight piece, just so you know. It is a fun little piece, by the way. You can do some really interesting things with it. I initially thought it would be kind of lame, like why would I ever want my train to come off the tracks? But there's some really neat things you can kind of like tricks you can do where the train kind of goes off and goes back on the track. Anyways, I have 2 layers. I have one layer that has my tables on it and one that has my track. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy my table, and we're gonna go to a 5 by 5. I'm not gonna get any bigger than this, but this is really your only option if you or child, who knows, whichever, really wants more track beyond that initial loop of track. But you can do a lot with this. So first, and I wanna show that you can, and that also planning ahead for it so you know what parts you need to go out and buy works really well for this. Unless you just happen to own a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up here really quick. I'm gonna get rid of some things. We're gonna extend this down. So I'm just clicking on pieces of track and hitting delete. It will automatically follow back the track in one direction. Um, so I'm gonna add some more straights here. I'm clicking on the straight. By the way, I haven't been mentioning this because the demo is fully on my computer. This works completely fine on your phone. You would just tap with your finger. So we're gonna go down here. About, I think about there. Put the curve in, it went the wrong way. I hit R to rotate it. If you're on mobile, there's actually a rotate button at the top of your screen to make it very easy to get to. We'll put that in, yeah, hey, I guessed it correctly. Okay, and still facing, okay, that's fine, and there we go. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna close this loop. And then I'm gonna show you what you can do with this now that you have all set up. Because this might be your first inclination. And also, just a second, when you do this, you go, okay, cool, my kid wants this. How much do I need to get to do all of this? The curve stayed the same amount, and I'll show you that you can see that. And I showed you, there's this inventory window, the part inventory window, and it's gonna now show you, cool, you need 25 straights. Now that is with the little siding that I made. But you can tell how many you're gonna need. How many parts you're going to need to make all of this. In this case, it has 17 curves. That's again because of the switch, but it would just be 16 without that, which is exactly what comes with your original set. You just needed to get a hold of more straight track, which Lego will sell to you on BrickWorld Online, and there's various sets. Yes, thank you for asking me. That's actually what my wife wanted me to bring up. So thanks for giving me the transition. So yes, in the track component browser, part browser down here, there are first-party track, things that are officially made by Lego, and there are a bunch of third-party track, which we are continuing to add more and more of. In fact, I just added 3 more pieces to this, like on our drive to BrickWorld, like for my car. And so yes, there's a bunch of parts in here that actually is really helpful, and I was about to show that in some of this. It's really helpful for figuring out how to make something fit in the space, especially when you're having to deal with constrained space and you can't just go wild. And when you do have space, you can use a much wider radius curve. That's great, but there's also other smaller switches, crossovers, and all sorts of things that'll help you fit things in here. And then when you're, let me just as a really quick demo to show you. So there is too far. Here we go. If you were into wide radius track, here's an R104 switch. The only reason I'm showing this is to show this off really quickly. If you were then in your part inventory, you can see it's in here and you can see who makes it. So that way you know, cool, I picked this out. Where do I get this thing from? Now, we're also working on adding links over here so that then you can just go straight to it. But at the minimum, you can get in here and go, all right, who makes that thing? Where can I get it? And you can go back and see that for the Lancaster plastic table. There's a link to buy it if you really want that specific table. That's the official table, or not official, the starter table that's suggested for LGMS members. So yeah, so you can see in there. So that way it helps you sort of explore parts you might not even know exist from manufacturers you might not know even exist out there. Absolutely, that is the plan, that you don't have to go find the parts on the internet trying to put as much stuff in here. Not only will the suggestions, in the fairly near future, there'll be a way if you want to, if you have the images, that you can even contribute and you can submit stuff to us if you want to. We're still going to work on it. We're not going to rely on all of you to do that. So back to this. So you've got your big circle, I guess. It's a square with rounded corners. And you know, you want to do some more in here. All right, so well, again, we've kind of talked about switches. So why don't we start off with that and see where we get to with that. There we go, great. So I clicked and I added a right-facing switch. So that means the arm comes off to the right. And I'm gonna attach a curve to it. That's what Lego do. And then I want to, maybe I want to put another train line inside of here. Okay, so let's try and do that. There we go. Great. Cool. Counting my clicks. Uh, there we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're coming back around. And okay, so how can we make this into a loop? So if we used Lego's official switches, you're not going to be able to make that fit. And that's what you're going to find if you just buy Lego's official parts, is that you cannot fit another circle inside. In fact, I can quickly demonstrate that, but like it is just not going to happen. So just to really quickly show you, if I go in here, you're supposed to put a curve, and then going to the next switch, you have to have another curve, and then that is going to be another right. That, and you can see a little bit messy here, but you can see the connection point on the switch is already all the way up here. By the time you add a curve, it's going to just run into the other. You can't do it that way. But having a tool like this lets you explore other parts that exist that will let you do this, that other companies make easier for you. So if we go back to our part browser, you'll go down, you can see there is a crossover part. There's a left and a right that make connecting two parallel tracks much easier. There we go. So I put in a crossover switch here, and in fact, you can see it already decided to connect with the curve that I had put down here. And so that works really well to allow me to put in there we go. Now we're able to have. By the way, I'm dragging this around by because I have a 3-button mouse. I'm clicking the middle button and it lets me grab. There are several ways to grab and drag around. And so now I have this inside of there, which means that I'm now able to run 2 trains, which by this point, since you had to buy, you know, even more curves, maybe you bought an entire another train set to get that 16 extra curves to go in the middle. Maybe you did. Maybe you did. And so we can do that. We can actually do it again and add an even smaller one inside. And so I will leave that as an exercise to you if you wanted to. You could also just not have that siding at the top, make your circle a little bit bigger. But also now you can figure out, okay, now I have this, maybe I do want a house in the middle. And now you can lay out all of that stuff. Now you can figure out how much is really going to fit in the remaining space I have in the middle. So you could come in here, we could just add colored base plates, you could add roads. I showed you before, we also have various different structures that you can add. Be able to fill those in. The other thing that you can do is if you have just fully customized shapes you want to put in there to represent something that maybe is in a mock, something you want to put in there. Maybe you're gonna put botanicals flower sets in there in the new pot that's coming, the vase that's coming. You could come over here and you could make a custom shape, and you could even add text to label what you're going to be doing in here. The idea is that you can take space that you have or even explore, what if I added just a little bit more? What would that enable me to do before you go out and buy another table, before you go out and buy more tracks? You can figure all of that stuff out here, and you can quickly, I mean, you saw, I made mistakes. I had to delete things. If you were doing that with paper, you'd be erasing things or drawing a whole new version of it. This lets you very quickly iterate on that. And you can do this right from your phone. You can do it from a Mac, from a PC, from Linux, from anything that you need to do, anything you like to use. In fact, we've opened this up on a kiosk at a hotel before, on like a check-in kiosk, because it'll work on anything with a web browser. And so that lets you quickly plan ahead, figure out what you want to do, find the parts that you need. And then if you want to get feedback on this from someone else, there's even, you can even export an image of this. So you could send it to someone else and say, hey, here's an idea I'm working on. You know, do you have other ideas that I should do? You can download it if you want to, you know, for yourself offline if you haven't signed up for a free account for storage. If you have signed up for a free account, you can just keep one layout in the cloud. You can open it on any device you want. And yeah, there's a lot of other cool features that are coming that I could talk for days about, but we're also going to have a way that you can search other people's layouts that they have decided to make public. You can get inspiration from them. And we'll talk more about some other cool things that we're doing like that session. For now, if you have any questions, I'm happy to show off some things. 9:41, but also, oh, sorry. The other thing is I keep mentioning we have a couple other sessions coming. So later today at noon, we're going to talk about how you take an existing layout you've already built or something maybe you already have on paper and how you can convert it into a digital layout so you can keep evolving it from there or even show it off as a digital layout. Tomorrow, we're going to have a session on advanced techniques that let you go faster and sort of add things quickly, align things, just more advanced usage of the software. And then in the afternoon tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we're going to have a session. Oh, by the way, they're all in this room right here on collaborative group layout planning, how to work together with other people using this.
I do have a question for you. So
Absolutely.
it looks like it's just for trains, or do you have other um, Lego pieces? Survey says it's mainly.
Yeah, so the question is about if this is primarily for train users. Jessica and I have a background doing city and trains, so we certainly started there. This product, however, is not necessarily aimed at that. So anything that you could put on display, if you were, in fact, I have a better demo of this later today. If you wanted to display a bunch of Bionicles, and you knew what their footprint was, how much space they take up, there's a really easy way to create a bunch of those shapes in here that are things that represent that, and then figure out how am I going to pack in all of mine in the space that I've registered for, say, here at BrickWorld. You know, I've asked for one table. How am I going to make all of that fit in that space? And so it doesn't have to be trains. I think that was just the easiest thing that Jessica and I go to, and it's the easiest thing for me to think through a demo of on my own. But you can absolutely plan anything that needs to fit in there. You could be working with your whole club, and you're like, "Hey, this library is giving us a certain number of tables. You know, I've got 8 people who want to come, and they just kind of gave me all the shapes and sizes of their different mocks, which could be again any theme, Star Wars, anything. And you can use this to figure out how am I going to fit these shapes next to each other so it all kind of flows nicely and has space between. You can absolutely do that. I was demonstrating with city buildings and roads. You can do all sorts of things. Custom shapes not only let you do squares, rectangles, circles, all sorts of things that you need to represent an amount of space for. And then you can make custom base plates that represent, you know, actual studs. So you can arrange. What? Sure. Yeah, really quickly, I can show you one that I have that's an older LGMS display. If the Wi-Fi works. They didn't download that one ahead of time. That's the. Actually, I'm not sure where I put that one. I think the best one to show you what might be this really big one, but basically you could have tables where you're just trying to represent people's mocks on the table. And so you could just make spaces that are labeled. So, hey, here this person registered this really big thing, and then this many tables and stuff. So there's a way to just do that. You don't have to use it for trading town. Sort of for anything that you want to collaborate with, share with other people, do it from any device. Yes, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. So that the question was basically, could she take a top-down picture of a display, and I'll even go slightly smaller, like maybe on individual mocks if you want to. And could you then import them into here? Yes, you can. I'm going to show that off in the advanced one because that is a very, very new feature. So it is not maybe, in my opinion, perfect. How I might be perfect. So I think it's not quite perfect, but you definitely can. It's absolutely a thing you can do. You can also do an interesting thing where if you're going in here and you're like, well, my mock would actually look like this custom base plate, next to this one, next to this color, next to that one. You do all of that, and then like build it in BrickLayouts, and then go, I want to just make all of this a thing that I can reproduce in the, like as if it was a mock, if I uploaded that picture, but instead I built it in the app. So either way, yeah. Absolutely. Oops. Oh my God. There we go. Here's my other session. Yes, they're all right here. So noon today, 9 a.m. tomorrow, so same time as this one was, and then 4 p.m. tomorrow. Right here. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for all coming. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Please check out BrickLayouts. If you have any feedback after I finish email us, hello@bricklayouts.com. Absolutely, come to the sticker. Totally. If you forget any of these times, there's a flyer that came in your bag, by the way.
Actually got a lift arm class at night. Would I be able to eat for the PowerPoint?
For
review
9 a.m.
later?
tomorrow on
Yeah.
that one? Yeah, not only that, I mean, I record the whole thing. So
Oh.
we'll post it on YouTube, but so I can certainly send you the slides. But the advanced one is a lot more live demo than it is slides.
Yeah.
But I'll have, in fact, we're recording right now. I'll cut this part, obviously, while we're just chatting. But my computer's recording my audio. That's why there's this microphone.
Okay.
And so it records my screen, not what I'm
Yeah,
waving
yeah.
my arms around. You don't get to see that, unfortunately. Sorry. But yeah, we'll have that up. So if you email me, then myself or Jessica will email you back with a link for that whole recording.
That sounds great. I'll definitely take a look at that.
Yeah,
Great.
because I have to miss the 4 o'clock one.
Yeah, totally. We understand. There's a lot of things going on here.
What is the actual website of the?
BrickLayouts.com.
Okay, you said something about app dot.
So there's an open BrickLayouts button from just BrickLayouts.com, but if you go to app.bricklayouts.com, it goes straight to the thing I was showing, like to the where you actually start using it. BrickLayouts.com without the app is like the marketing site. You know, but there's a button. Good example. To launch it out.
Awesome,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
There's so many people. You need to add Winter Village sets.
I have one in here, and I definitely need to add more.
Well, because there's whole Facebook groups dedicated to how do I design my Winter Village to go around my tree, on my mantle, on my bookshelf.
I think that would have been
Absolutely.
another
So-
perfect example to counter the
So I
train only
switched
question.
it. So the coffee table one, I switched to not. It used to. The first time I gave that presentation, it was about how to do a Winter Village display on a coffee, which actually makes way more sense as a thing than I'm going to put city on a coffee table. But like
the
if I were,
modulars, people do that too. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's not that strange.
yeah. So weirdly, there's a layer called shh. And that's where all of my they're representations of, but there's basically representations of Winter Village sets. And I put in just the Elf Clubhouse for them, but I'm playing with the rest of them in. Probably by the beginning of Q4 this year, I'm going to put in all of them so that we can kind of do a push of, hey, if you're planning a Winter Village, like I know there's people who do it year round. Right, I understand. It's more of like
most people are going
prioritization
to
of
majority is
features.
going to do it.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. But so that was the very first building we put into BrickLayouts at all, and it's because one of the first things we did with it as an actual like display was planning a layout around our own tree, and so I think I have that one. It's not home layout. Oh my God, there it is, Christmas 2025. See, that's my house or my living room.
Oh,
and so I
I've
put
seen that
there.
image before
Oh.
in like your.
Yeah, we've used it in marketing.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Because it was one of the early things we did. And so, things that I do in BrickLayouts, basically, without input from other people, influence the order I build things in. So it was like, hey, I need circles. So I added circles literally for this, and even partial circles. But yeah, no, definitely. This was definitely
Circles was the other thing I was gonna.
Yeah, so it's a custom shape. When you click on custom shapes down here in the corner, there's a rectangle and circle. So if you go to circle, you're then specifying
Diameter?
the diameter. Man, that really should say that word. It does not. And then the diameter in what units, what color. You can choose if you want full circle or partial circle. And then if it's partial, you choose what percentage of a circle, and it's giving you a little preview. And that's why my display stand is it's half a circle plus a little bit of a
Plus, yeah.
rectangle. That's just how it's built in my
And
house.
then being able to group things together.
And yes, you can definitely, when you draw boxes around, like I did to move stuff, then if you click on the 3-dot menu, there's group, which keeps it together.
So anyway, here's one of the other ways I use to plan my layouts.
Yes, we actually know someone else who does literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the other thing is I wind up using shapes from the Mac.
Ah, okay.
So for my for my yard layout, I have all the parts custom built and then grouped together, and then just move groups around and duplicate it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And so you'll be able to upload
we're using
images.
some of all the same like techniques and design.
Absolutely. And so you'll be able to upload custom images if you have them on. The thing that, like things I don't have in it, I don't have the ability to crop. Like it has to be the image that you want. You can resize it all you want, but I don't have the ability to like chop
have
off
to
parts.
You would
Crop
crop
it
it outside
before.
before
Right, you're
bring
going to
it
need
in.
to crop it, which I get is a thing. Not everyone's going to know how to do that. The other thing you can't do yet, I just haven't gotten to it, is add connection points. So if it is a thing that has a connection point,
Right.
I actually have that implemented, but I haven't shown it to anyone else because the interface for it is really rough. Like rougher than anyone should be comfortable with seeing. But there is a way to like add a dot, drag it to where you want, change what angle the connection is
Can you
at.
take an
all kinds of things.
existing part
Yeah.
and actually mod it and make it a custom part?
So
So the idea was
He's talking
is-
about cutting track.
cutting track.
like
Got
the
it.
switches, like the switches
Yeah.
to make a pair of Lego switches to be the,
Right, which I
the
actually
single
have as a
crossover.
built-in part. That is
Right,
the
but that's
crossover.
a third party one
Yes.
versus actually
Well,
doing it.
it perfectly matches the cut one, but yes, it is a third party.
Okay.
That is correct. But it exactly
Because I've
matches how
done,
everyone
I've cut
does.
ones the other way where you get the
I
wide.
also have that one. That is actually not a third party part. It's literally is the cut one. So if I
Okay.
go and I gotta get out of here because these people
So
need
what
their
he's
way.
telling you
Um,
is that he's already
Look right here.
Doing some
anticipated
of
your
them.
thing and already.
Those are literally cut switches that are just only the part that goes to the left, and without the slight weirdness that Lego does that makes it come back to the right, or the other way. Yes. All right, let me get myself out of here because he needs this room. And sorry, my presentation had to start late. They didn't even have my projector set up. So I'm really sorry.